All right, I'll call the September 5th DRB meeting to order. First is agenda changes.
Yes, we have two things to mention. First, we have another extension request. A year ago, tomorrow, EFG got approval for a sign that's expiring, and they're requesting from the DRB an extension on that approval. I would just recommend putting that at the end of the business. And the other one is, the other thing to make note of is that the August 17th issue of the Citizen mistakenly advertised a state wetlands permit hearing for the DRB tonight. And if you're watching at home, it's not happening here.
Is that something that may happen in the near future, or was it just a completely cut the wall thing?
It's, actually, it would be the sidewalk for, between Wind NRG and,
NRG.
yeah, up to Wind NRG, from Commerce Street to Riggs Road. That's what it's actually supposed to be for. But basically, it's a state approval for being in the wetlands buffer, and at some point in time, that will come back to here, but not at this time.
All right, next is all the board members can review the minutes of August 15th.
I had none. Move to approve.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. All right, next is Janos Laszlo subdivision revision, modify a driveway access. How's it going?
So I guess in the fairness and disclosure, I just happened in the last 6 weeks to have come across Judge Cooper Smith in passing, and he mentioned that, we've successfully persuaded the select board to approve a non-conforming or a narrower right-of-way. And he pointed out that we had encouraged the select board to consider that. So I guess in light of that, I won't participate in this decision.
Okay.
This is about Leavensworth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm on the same page as everybody else.
I don't know, should John get on that, or should John join for this, or just a thought?
Sure. John? I'm happy to give you my seat and notes and everything else.
We're trying to give John a bit of exercise.
Some color photos. So the select board and the road foreman were okay with this change, right?
That's correct.
Dennis, my understanding, the decision said the DRB was of the mind that if the powers that be were amenable to a narrower right-of-way, we were fine with it, the DRB.
Yeah, my recollection is clearly that we didn't.
Yeah, we had that in the
we didn't-
decision.
We did not totally agree with the, what was being required. But that was what was being required at the time.
Can I just ask for clarification as to exactly the language that is in our documents here for maybe some of the staff comments? I wasn't exactly clear on what was being acceptable. There seemed to be a a variable width between 11.5 and 12 feet, and I think I would like some clarification as to, there's road width, which is a generic term, and there's traveled way, there's shoulders, and it appears to me that the overall road traveled way plus shoulders seems to be, meets the criteria that I think was intended. However, the traveled way itself seems to be variable in 11.5 to 12 feet, and I think what I would like to hear is either the applicant or maybe Mitch, you explain what you think is actually happening there, and that we have a condition that we can live with.
Well, I think basically, going back to just kind of the standards that the town has and what it generally does, if the applicant didn't go back to the select board, usually when there's a development on a Class 4 road, the town may not actually take over that as a Class 3, but they oftentimes will require an upgrade. And that's been not so much planning zone, but that's been kind of the standard that the road standards, the standard that the town highway foreman would go by, and what is generally requested of the DRB. The select board and the road foreman, after not only looking at the situation and but also getting a lot of input from a lot of the neighbors, decide to agree to allow it to remain a Class 4 road without it being upgraded, which it's kind of one of these, a little bit of a gray area, but it looked like that there was enough that was in the prior decision that it needs to come back to make sure that between the plan and that particular, was I think a finding of fact and conclusion that I quoted in my report, that basically that the DRB would need to just say that it was okay to not bring it to that full 18 feet that would be required, but that say a 12-foot driveway would be sufficient.
Well, with part of John's question, whether there's a requirement that they actually, if it's not up to 12 feet, that they increase it to 12 feet?
That's what I'm leaving up to the board here.
I mean,
Right now,
for
right,
single-family residence, we require a 12-foot, and for potentially multiple family, we should at least, Lord, in my mind, should at least require an upgrade to 12 feet or proof that, it's already
right, and it just seems that at this point, and Mr. Laszlo, please, comment if this isn't correct, but being that it is 11, it kind of ranges from 11.5 to 12 feet. If we were to bring this to the standard of a driveway, we would just simply require that the pathway not be brought out all the way to the 18 feet as per a Class 3 road, but just simply to make sure that any spots that are less than 12 feet be widened to 12 feet. So if you have to put like 6 inches or so in certain spots, that type of.
How many residences are being served by this? Just one.
So on the photos that shown, this road is not a maintained road. So of course, it is being traveled and it's being pushed on the side by sometimes heavier trucks. So measurements, you cannot take an exact measurement. When I said I try to be as truthful as possible, if I measured 11.5, that's what I provided. It varies because it's not maintained correctly. So I would propose that we would maintain it sufficiently as a driveway. It would be more an extension of our driveway. We would put gravel on it and keep it flat.
How long is this section of road?
This section is, I would say, around 80 to 100 feet. 80 to 100 feet. It goes from the pole on that attached photo to basically at this point to the property line. 12-foot travel. Our dilemma is with the neighborhood, you know, it's a very close community. They really know each other, everybody seems to know each other on that road, and nobody wants to cut those trees out, including us if we don't have to. And that section of Leavensworth Road has that Vermont Life magazine type look, and it's used extensively by recreational users, bikers. You know, I can be there working all day, and probably the first car coming through is around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I have a half a dozen cars coming through at any day, mostly young people, because further back that road is in a pretty rough shape, and the bush is overgrown. If you drive your car across, you get scratched up. So, you know, we can upgrade that first section of the road, but there's nothing further going up the road that would serve any purpose other than our driveway. So our reasoning is, if it's only our driveway, it's only one residence, why do this extensive upgrade and cut those trees? It will be a very long time before those trees grow up on the side, and it would have a non-favorable impact on that road on the long run.
We also got a letter from Kim Hazelrig and Scott Shumway. Is that,
They are in the same situation on the south end of the road.
okay,
Their driveway was approved under the same circumstances, that their driveway begins about 100 feet away from the beginning of the class 4 section.
Okay.
And they didn't have to upgrade the road.
and they're in favor of your request?
The whole road, we did a petition back in July, I believe, at the select board meeting, and there were only 100% of the road signed the petition, over 30 residents on Leavensworth Road.
Okay,
To keep the road, or the way we worded is to minimize the upgrade. We'll have to do some upgrade, we recognize that, because we do have cars and we have construction vehicles that get up the road. However, we want to keep it to the minimum. If we would have to upgrade to a 14-foot travel with a shoulder, with a ditch, all those trees shown on the photo would have to go. And none of those neighbors would be happy. It's in the town right away, I understand it, but it's also their home. You know, it's an extension of their home, it's an extension of our home, so.
okay.
2 more questions, is that, so just so I'm clear, then the plowing is your responsibility?
That's correct, that's the way it was understood from day one, that the town would not maintain that section of road, and we are okay with that.
And then the shoulder width would be variable depending on the trees and the ditching, you know,
That's
that.
correct,
Okay.
you know, it would be wide enough, you know, we had large semi-trucks come up to the lot to deliver gravel for the driveway, so it is wide enough that large trucks can get up. We also had a large backhoe come through there, so it's not where only small cars can get through. So the concern was that emergency responders would have to get up, and I believe they can. We also have a fairly long horse trailer that we would need to get up there and back and forth, so it will be wide. It is already wide enough that large vehicles can get through, and it will be maintained such that they can continue to go up and down that section.
Any other board members that have questions?
Yes, I just asked, is there a trigger at certain residents or traffic flow, then you would have to increase the width, or what?
I would say probably once you get your second driveway. If if there was another lot that was developed beyond yours, then the area at least up to where your driveway would be would then have to be developed.
I believe that was the case with the Shumway decision. That was the decision.
Is this decision gonna stipulate that in some way, or is there no mechanism to stipulate that?
We'll see that, I think.
We can.
Well, we don't, well, is there more permitted up there?
There isn't anything currently.
Right.
There'd be properties that would have to come here for subdivision.
There
If
are
the-
some that would not have to come for subdivision.
No, they would have to come
Yeah,
for
that's the
subdivision.
point. So, I think we'll see them.
I think the regulations for any further improvement would require demonstration of access, which would require potential modification of this decision.
So
To conform to the regulations.
It would be essentially the next property.
It could be part of the conditions of this approval, but I think it's also governed by the regulations.
I believe the way the Shumway decision was 20 years ago, that the next resident would have to upgrade it to our driveway, and then the rest of the road can stay again as a class 4 because it's only serving one resident.
I'll open it up to the public.
So we actually didn't put the driveway improvements in the order. They are part of the plans that we approved, right?
Mhm.
So what we're being asked to approve is a modified plan.
A modified plan, and that in the findings of fact,
It isn't, I see it in the findings of fact in number 6, the applicant has received preliminary approval from the town highway foreman.
I believe that specifies sheet SW4,
Right, right,
which specifies the width of
Right.
14 feet traveled
Right.
width with
Right.
shoulders.
right.
so you want to amend finding of fact number 6 and the plan.
Mhm. I don't see anything in the conclusions. Oh, I do, yes, I do. The conclusion number 2, which is sheet SW4. So you haven't actually modified the language yet, right?
I started writing a draft decision for this one, but
Okay,
realized there was a few variables that held me back from it.
yep.
You wanna talk about it some more in deliberative, or what else?
I think we can just direct staff to draft condition, to redraft, findings of fact and conclusions, related to the, driveway access and, see it next meeting.
Okay, that was your
Should we just
motion?
remind ourselves with something that says like further building, you know, I know it's in the regulations, but just a quick reminder that we did.
We can put that in there as part of the decision, sure.
Yeah, I think it should reflect the fact that it's serving one residence, right? Therefore driveway's appropriate.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Good. I think
Thank you.
Everyone will be happier.
Can you summarize it just
Are you good to
so
stay?
in my
I
term,
got work to do.
what the decision is?
Basically, I've been authorized
I actually
to
have to
draft the
recuse myself, I
decision.
think, from the next one, because it's a
And,
revision
at
on
the
a
next
decision
meeting,
that I wasn't here originally for.
they
but
will
Jonathan
review
wasn't
that
here originally.
draft
Trying to get
decision.
out before I am.
that one?
No, I'm
Thank
going
you.
back.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
It's, I didn't watch
I-
the meeting.
I'm gonna leave now, leave John,
Okay.
take my place. All right, Greg, good luck.
Oh, that was pretty tricky.
Okay.
Good switch.
Um,
My wife's not watching.
This is a question for Dennis. I wasn't here at the 8-1 meeting, so I don't really know if, and I didn't watch the video. So for the decision revision, I don't think I can really offer much, or can I hear it kind of new?
Which one are you talking about?
Oh, for the next hearing, the minor Donaldson?
If we're gonna hear it new, I can hear it, but if we're gonna allude to,
You have plenty of people here, right?
Pretty much just a change.
okay,
Right.
Yeah, you'll probably fine with it.
okay.
Yeah. All right, up next, Tom and Nancy Minor, decision revision for re-subdivision. Are you up, George?
Yep, the draft that you have in front of you with changes, got some stuff where we needed to be. There were some conditions that essentially have been dropped that were on page 2. And there was a couple corrections, one of acreage on page 1, and another one for the street address.
And this is so you can keep it in land use, right?
Yes, the property was obtained, it was a 2-acre piece around the house and barns, and then there was a 25.1 acre piece that lays on both sides of that old road that went up through there, the Burritt Road. There's a stretch of class 4 in the middle. What you had in front of you was a copy of the original survey layout, lot layout, and how one piece was added to the east, and the piece that wanted to be removed off the north end. And there were conditions in here that wanted to have lot numbering changes, etc. This thing is in land use. The program was entered with a map showing the property in one configuration, and these days, land use people are very anxious to bump anyone that indicates they might have any plan to subdivide or demonstrate that there's lots of it that might be available for sale. We need to keep the representation of that land the way it always has been.
Yeah, if I could just add a couple of things. We were under the impression originally that the 2-acre lot was part of, it was just simply separated in, just out of land use versus, we didn't realize at the time that it was, or there was a miscommunication as far as that lot was actually a separate piece. And the way the tax people look at things and the way that zoning looks at things is sometimes different. We were looking at the west side property to see if it had sufficient acreage, and either which way it would still have, whether it had the 2 acres or not, it would still be sufficient in terms of acreage where you're not creating by this transfer of land a nonconformity. So that's why we took out the, changed the number in the 757 to the 2541 to be representative per what would help out the miners and the Donaldsons. And I added the, what I put in, I squeezed in as finding of fact number 4, which basically, without specifically stating the number on that particular side, that there's a finding that, yes, the amount of acreage that would be on that particular side, which the tax people wouldn't care about, but basically is important to zoning, satisfies the requirement.
Okay.
That and once you actually take the 2-acre property out, a few comments don't become irrelevant, and hence all the different changes that we have there.
Have you seen the different changes?
Yes. And one thing that Mitch had asked for on the plan itself was that we state what the after-transfer acreages would be for Tom's parcel and on the Donaldson enrolled parcel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we did change from a 25.41 to a 25.1, right?
Yeah, that's 3.1 acres going to Tom.
0.31, yeah.
Yeah.
board members have any questions? I don't think anybody's here from the public.
So do you have to modify the enrollment for that change in acreage? All right.
So you don't have a draft decision written up?
Well, I have the track
Yeah,
changes.
this is the track change, this is the draft decision. Crossouts and,
That-
yeah.
Right, so basically, what I'll do is, I could have actually given you another sheet that just has this all accepted, but, I figured if the track changes are fine, then it just, the track changes are the modifications.
So I can make a motion to approve the draft?
Mhm.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, John and Julia Eastman for final plat review of a two-lot subdivision. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Just give me one moment. Which one do you want?
Let's start with the plat, I guess.
This one?
Yep.
That's not it.
Site plan? Oh, there, yeah, something was funny on our, did you just?
That it?
Yeah, the site plan.
That's the
overall
site
framework,
plan.
right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
What happened
a
with the
couple of
site?
them didn't,
Didn't come through?
not not on our things, but we have the hard copies.
You do, okay. Well, we can start with the site plan since it's up.
And the other one we wanted was,
The plat.
let's see, the plat.
The
So
sub-
Eastman,
Subdivision red.
That one came through.
yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
All right, whichever one you want to start with.
That's fine. The plat. So basically, John and Julie came in maybe a year or so ago, first started with a sketch plan, that was the inception of the project was when subdivision and zoning regs were changing in that area. So they could have the potential to subdivide the property, creating a second developable lot. The existing acreage, 10.67 acres in size. You can see the outer perimeter of the property here. Once subdivided, lot 2, 5.84 acres, and lot 1 with the existing 5-bedroom home, 4.84 acres. We tried to follow some of the existing stone wall features where the line was placed, that's why there's a little bit different acreage. There's an acre difference between the two parcels. In terms of the building envelope, you see where it's situated above the stone wall. There are some wetlands off to the southeast of the property, which we were able to stay away from them considerably. We're up closer to the road where there's up in the upland part of the property. Keeping everything closer to the road, minimizing impervious area. Area of disturbance, all of those, which we were able to keep stuff less than a quarter acre to meet the stormwater requirements. There is a easement associated with the lot number 1 wastewater system, which is a replacement area, which sort of needs to, it straddles the line where we had to place the subdivision line. There really wasn't a lot of other room for it, given the well shields, and to try to keep stuff on good soils where the outside of the wetlands. Confident we're up above or anything where, above where there would be any delineated wetlands. Road cut access, I believe you turned in the application several weeks ago and that was received. There has been several truckloads of fill that were brought in from various ditching around Sherman Hollow Road. The building envelope is staked, although I know the vegetation is really pretty tall out there, so maybe you didn't see it.
I saw most of it.
Did you? Okay.
Spent about 45 minutes out there looking for it.
Trying to find stuff.
Sorry.
They're there, I'll attest to that. Our guys went out with the GPS and staked everything, so, you know, the new parcel has been issued a wastewater permit. The project does have a state water and wastewater permit that came through a couple of weeks ago. That'll be ready to be recorded after the meeting. We're still within the 30 days. 4-bedroom, single-family home for the new parcel, lot number 2, served by its own well in a proposed mound system below the house, although it will be pressurized. We do have a backup location or replacement area for the lot 1 structure. So obviously the permit's been issued, everything's in compliance, meets all the setbacks, all in regards to property lines, isolation distances relative to the wells and the wastewater system. Really a relatively straightforward subdivision in terms of, it's pretty simple. If you have any questions.
I had 2 minor comments on the plat.
I
They're
saw
really
the,
minor.
yeah, I saw the,
And just a simple request that before a building envelope, would just be either maintained or restaked.
well, if John has some flagging, if he has something that just tie
Yeah,
a
we can
tie
definitely
a
add to that.
piece of flagging above where the stakes are.
Yeah,
If you wanna go out and take a look at it.
Sure.
sure.
It's a little bit of a funky building envelope where the mound system is sort of below that. We wanted to give a little bit of option. We do have all the ties that are necessary to locate those building envelope corners in the future. And then once everything is, hope everything is approved, and we can go out and set the pins and put together the final Mylar.
Why is the building envelope so irregular?
It's actually, the mound system is here, and just sort of give a little extra area in case someone wanted to have a little outbuilding above where the system is, we did leave, just to give a little more area. It's pretty restrictive
Yeah.
building envelope
Right,
now.
yeah.
It leaves the bulk of the property is untouched.
Board members have any questions?
Maybe about the building envelope going right up against the wall. But,
It's not gonna impact it. It's just, the stone walls are nice because it does give us some sort of idea of where we are on the property. The stone wall's not gonna be affected, but it does demarcate where things can go, so. Gives a good stopping point.
In terms of, I know there's no stormwater permit required, but in terms of just the gradient coming down the driveway, that's in a ditch and culvert.
That'll
that's
be
being
either-
the driveway
either-
permit.
Yeah, either be graded, most likely it'll actually be a disconnect from the driveway, sort of not to ditch everything and then culvert, but actually grade it so that stormwater sheds off from the driveway
On the property itself.
onto the
yeah.
property, and eventually all flows southeast.
I don't see anybody here from the public, so. Yeah.
where's the driveway?
You can go back to the site plan. Here's the proposed drive. Here's a stone wall, that's the property boundary. Driveway kind of swings in to cut some of the grade off from the hillside, and there's the building envelope outlining the magenta. Sort of, there's this radius to the driveway. There's already an existing access that's started, and the access permit's been, I think it's been
Yep,
issued, right?
it has.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the draft as written. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aye.
Let me know. Thank you, nice to meet you.
What's that? Yeah, yeah.
So we're on to other business. Theresa Giroux Revocable Trust extension request. Would you like to show us
Well,
something?
Well, actually, before that, I just want to mention that there are 3 extension requests. I know we talked about this at a prior meeting where, because of problems with the municipal water system, there was no allocation provided on July 1st, which was supposed to be. There is belief that there will be, in the near future, an actual allocation submitted. There's Eric Bailey and his team have been hard at work this summer, fixing a lot of leaks and a lot of maintenance, a lot of deferred maintenance that has come back to haunt the town. And they're hoping that once all of this maintenance is done, that they will actually have a good sense of how much water would be available for projects in the municipal water and sewer area. So it turns out that we've got 3 extension requests, Giroux, Wind NRG, Haystack Crossing, and I'll just mention this is for Giroux, their first extension request. For Wind NRG and Haystack Crossing, though they've had multiple extensions, they both have been working with the town to try to create a new water supply. And so planning and zoning is supporting all 3. And though in some sense I'd love to do it in one motion, but it does have to be separate motions. So I don't know if you want to do the,
Do you want to do those motions first and then you can show us what you have? Sure. Or do that first?
whatever
Yeah.
you guys, it's up to you.
So we're doing Giroux, Wind Energy, and Haystack?
We gotta do them all separate. Do you want to make all 3 motions?
I mean,
Yep.
or I should say it was suggested that it'd be better to make it 3 separate ones. But if the board wants to do it in one, I mean, I don't know the legality on it.
I'll make a motion to approve an extension request for Giroux Revocable Trust. Do we have to give a date?
I don't think it's necessary.
6-month extension.
6-month
Okay.
extension.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion that we extend the sketch plan approval for Wind NRG Partners.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And Haystack Crossing?
I'll make a motion to, for the 3rd extension of Haystack Crossing for sketch plan approval. That'd be 6 months extension also, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain.
You wanna do these next 2? Or wait? We'll wait. We'll
Yeah.
go over your,
You have
Okay.
the updated one.
Yeah, just, all right.
So the point that we're at, we're obviously waiting for water, as you, well, most people are. We did go through all the notes that were taken and the discussions in the sketch plan, and did a fair amount of research on looking at other similar projects, other subdivisions, getting away from sort of the, the ski condominium cookie cutter type layout. reducing area of the, I think the biggest concerns were the connection of the buildings to one another, the overall layout with how the buildings were set up, and the size of the parking lot. I think those were the two main items. We're at a point now where
I'll
we've,
just add one more, going from 2 lots to 1 lot.
oh, excuse me, going from 2 lots to 1 lot. And it was at 2 lots, and to take off from that point, we've actually eliminated the subdivision line, have kept it as 1 parcel. Okay, so it's no longer proposed as a subdivision. Generally speaking, I think that was the consensus of the board, although there was a little bit of back and forth. So it's still a planned unit development. Same with the number of units have not changed from the initial sketch plan. We have thrown in we have done preliminary designs with water and sewer connections, which you can see the water service serving all the buildings. 2 step back, we actually have separated and made 2 units, and 2 units not connected, made the parking area considerably smaller, with a turnaround on the far side of the parking area with a landscaped island in the middle. The driveways, access for 2 cars for each unit, with a garage, so there's actually more parking. And we reduced the number of parking spaces, but actually increased the parking, which I think that was pretty much the general goal. Same thing in what was the other 3 units on the easterly side of the property. We sort of separated those, fanned them out. The building envelopes have not changed from what they were previously. So we did want to sort of separate those items a little bit. Originally, we had proposed serving by 2 different water and sewer connections. We have eliminated that, we have changed that. We've gone to 1 main sewer connection up here to a manhole that grabs these 2 units, or grabs the 4 units on the westerly side, and then grabs the 3 units on the easterly side. So we were able to reduce some of the infrastructure that's going to be part of the project. It'll run up the road, it'll be within the right-of-way. In the future, there won't need to be any excavation or work outside in the field. Likewise with the existing structures, the existing water and sewer services that are there, they can be left alone. We don't have to try to shut down a residence up at the end of the driveway, install everything, connect it up. We eliminate all those pains. Basically the layout, we're at a point now where we've started some of the stormwater stuff. Some of the grading is going to be tricky to get up into, primarily up into this part here, into the 3 units that are separated on the east side. So we've sort of put everything on hold until we know what is happening with the water. In terms of the grading, there will be some retaining walls. It's a little bit steep to get in there, so there will be, it's tricky. I mean, you see all the contours, you see the change in elevation that we're dealing with, so it's a little bit tight. We don't anticipate having to revise this building envelope. We're going to try not to. It may need to expand a little bit so we can slide the driveway down and make a little bit more of a turn to get up to those upper 3 units. Preliminary sizing with the stormwater. Obviously, we talked about it before. We're looking at some sort of retention here, and then the widening or upgrading of the road into where they break off to the units. So, I thought this was a good point to put it before the board, get comments and feedback with general layout before we continue on with the stormwater. Because once the grading is set and done, it's kind of hard to go back if buildings start shifting around.
What's the, you know, where it says the word garage on the left side there?
You know?
There's a sort of gable form in front of it. Is that entirely a footprint of the garage, so to speak?
Oh, with
You see what I mean? I mean, it has a kind of, is that a double garage?
it's a dormer.
It's a dormer, but-
Dormer for the top.
Is it a double car garage, or
It
is that?
is.
It is.
It is. Yep.
Okay.
And we looked at a few.
So it's only the back portion, Jason, that's a garage, or is?
No, it's the whole width of it. There's a gable from the top.
Yeah, I understand that, but
No, you mean the back part, what I consider the front driving into
Right.
the house? Yes.
that entire piece is a footprint. It's just not
It is.
all garage.
It's not all garage.
Okay, then. All right. I was just looking at the proportions and thinking. That was a little
Looks like a
weird.
big garage, right?
It looked like a long garage.
Very
yeah.
deep.
Yeah. Okay.
The single-family detached housing on the east, do you envision those being almost sunk into the elevation at all, or are they sitting on top of that elevation?
They're gonna have to be stepped.
Yeah.
I mean, we've just, yeah, I mean, obviously if anybody's done any grading and once you start to cut in with a driveway, you gotta start lowering the garages to get down and into here. It's a little bit tricky. There's likely gonna be a retaining wall on this side, in here, maybe up with the same sort of back in there, just to minimize how far we have to cut back, so. It's a little bit of playing with the grading, with the cuts and fills, a few retaining walls, but yeah, most of those are gonna be, the houses are gonna be stepped with the garage to work out.
Could you put up the original one? I can't. I don't have one.
Actually, the green put it in here.
I have it in the paper.
It appears to be much improved, but.
I agree, but I just wondered, I just couldn't remember exactly what the first one looked like.
Yep.
It's not the right one. Sorry about that.
While we're pulling that up, I thought that I would remark again, I think the aspects of bringing the two together, and clearly one lot that makes a lot of the easement kind of discussion that was going on about access to the common area easier. I would say, this is minor comment, but it's that perception of use of that common land again, and whether there could be an informal connection between those single-family households to that wooded area, rather than having them walk along that driveway.
Well, I mean, it's certainly very easily you can put a path.
Exactly. That's just what I was thinking about, just a physical connection that would
Sure.
create that linkage, if you will.
I really don't see any reason why there shouldn't be.
I've got a few things.
Mhm.
One, this area right over here,
Yes.
where you're kind of cutting in a little bit to the woods. I know that, I forget her first name, Miss Janda, had a concern as far as maintaining those woods.
Yep.
Would it be possible to shift this a tiny bit over so you're not cutting into those?
We can try.
All right.
I mean, I'm gonna be, we've taken a few stabs here at the grading, and it's,
Well, then let me just say I'm reminding you that there
Okay.
was that concern from that
we're
neighbor.
in there 5 to 10 feet with some brush, so.
It may not be that big of
We're
a
not
thing.
taking out the whole hedgerow.
All right.
It's mainly just to get it away from the back side of the structure.
If anybody wants, the original one was from,
That's right, you can get.
We can
grab-
call
you
it
can
all
look
over.
it up. Yep.
Forgot about
It's,
that.
June 6th. Would that be right?
Well, with that comment with the trees and the neighbor there, if the house is sunken down to a degree, would that help mitigate some of her concerns? Is that it wouldn't be a massing effect on the edge of the property?
It's
Is
hard to
it-
say, I'm just remembering it from that
Yeah.
little comment. And the,
I mean, basically, we want to get the tree line back a little so it's not right
Right.
up to the structure, where, it's not good to have it. keep the
Right.
tree line.
the other thing, the other thought is, and I don't know how, but did you want to give yourself, and I'm not sure if the board's thinking this way, but did you want to give yourself an option of, say, building a community structure over here to utilize the fields in some way by expanding the building envelope?
Well, ultimately, we may end up having to expand the building envelope a little bit just to pull this structure down, so that it's not such a tight radius to get up in with the grade. So if we do have the possibility of bringing that a little bit further to the south, then that, you know, I'm not, hopefully not much, but even if we did put something on it where maybe there was a structure right in the very corner here that could be constructed, I think my client would be open to that.
Yeah, just something as far as bringing the community more together.
We're not trying to move the building envelope at this point, but to make, you know, unless we have a driveway that's really steep, it may be necessary to pull the house some.
Yeah, because you also have an extension of the building envelope way out into here. Is there any plans or anything like that as far as utilizing this space?
Nope. At this point.
What's the purpose of, maybe it's required and I'm just not aware of that, of the cul-de-sac?
I guess just to get so that it doesn't, if someone comes in, makes a mistake, wants to get out of there, that
Okay.
it's easily, if the parking lots are full, that they do have a place instead of trying to
Yep.
back up and around.
You
We
have
tried to tuck it out of the way and sort of hide it behind
Mhm.
as much as possible. That was part of the way of, I mean, if you recall before the
Yep.
actual parking area extended way up into the
Right.
hillside.
On the right side, how do you get out of there? Do you just have to back down if the driveways are full, or is that one, is that supposed to be a hammerhead, not a parking space?
At the end, the cul-de-sac?
No, on the other side.
Oh, that's a turnaround, yes. That's not meant to be a parking, that's meant to be a
Okay.
turnaround, yes.
Yep.
Is
Each,
that-
oh,
Oh, sorry. I just wonder if Mitch was asking about if he was interested in, is that what you were asking? If you were interested in shifting the building envelopes, whatever direction that is?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just
or
thinking,
south, so that you wouldn't have to come in and ask for an adjustment? Or you
Correct.
really would like to leave it up there where it doesn't look like you need it?
I'm sure they'll work out the details. I mean, there's many details left to be worked out, right?
yeah,
there is, I mean, ultimately, we may, this neighbor's not gonna complain, cause they still own it, but we may need to get a little more length to the driveway so that, you know, we keep things under 12%. I mean,
Right.
that's kind of what we're shooting for here. And we're at 8, 9, 10 with the first few stabs at it, so we're close. It's just, if anybody's trying to.
So the question for us is if we see any fatal flaws or if we,
Well, I'm looking for comments, I mean, basically, general layout, before,
and I think it's just, actually with that, you're not really making, and there's no decisions, there's nothing binding.
no.
So just
No.
some general, it really has to be just some general thoughts.
Our next step is to come through for preliminary, and at that point, we're going to have the stormwater plan, which is gonna be tied with all the grading. The water and sewer connections are gonna be designed, and at least a permit's gonna be applied for. So at this point, we're looking, I mean, if there's a slight tweak of one of the structures or a little bit of adjustment of a road, fine, but if there's a major, let's move everything further apart or closer together or something like that. I mean, we're trying to give the board an opportunity to comment now.
I would just, as I guess I always do, throw out there, just be caution of radius and grades and widths for emergency vehicles.
Yes.
Just
Yep.
be
We're
mindful of
certainly
that.
gonna look at that. And the grading is the big one. I mean, that's, you know, this here is obviously cutting into the hillside and popping a wall to hold it back, but this is sort of the steeper, and you can see where it is. It's tight.
You know, not just emergency vehicles, but delivery, all
All
that.
Fuel trucks
Yep.
and however, yeah.
I'd agree, you know, I think you've made some real good improvements. And, you know, I think we're always looking to sort of reduce paving. That was my question about the cul-de-sac. On the other hand, as John just points out, you know, access, egress by emergency vehicles and other vehicles, I guess, is a concern. If it were me, I'd look at an alternative to that circular cul-de-sac just because of the amount of paving involved. And I think, hey, you've got 2 residences up there, 4 altogether, but I'm not sure it warrants that kind of, I think as much as anything too, you know, the pattern now is much more, regardless of orientation and architecture and all that stuff, I think, you know, if you look at this neighborhood, the housing to the west and even what's already on the lot, you've just got something that's, you know, a little more cohesive insofar as just what's surrounding this. So I think you're on the right track, from my perspective.
And the PUD versus subdivision? Good move. Good move.
Yeah.
But just to note that a PUD has to go through a subdivision per the regulations.
Yes.
But yes, having it as one lot.
Yep, makes sense.
It works better with, you know, both the common areas in terms of the PUD, putting in the path. I think that, you know, noted, we can certainly, you know, get something in there. We still have plenty of room. We can try to fit something in a little bit different than a radius and a cul-de-sac. I mean, it would still end up being sort of it would likely be a hammerhead turnaround. It may reduce the paved area by a little bit. You can certainly look at that. Or we can,
I think I think the cul-de-sac with the island is visually pleasing as much as the
we tried to throw in
hammerhead is.
a little bit of landscaping. We haven't gone.
I appreciate Rolf's concern. I think the aesthetics probably of the circular, you know, I can imagine little people on bikes.
Yeah.
So, all right.
There is 7 feet of grade across it too.
How is the
Is there-
buffer on the east
Yeah,
side?
yeah, it's
It's gonna be a tip circle.
no.
There'll be retaining
there'll be a
walls.
cut in the fill,
Yeah.
and there'll be walls. Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
How is the buffer on the east side as far as lighting, noise, or whatever that may?
Well, it's
Be
all
brought up.
deciduous trees
Yeah.
that, you know, there's 20 or 30 feet. We're trying to keep it as much as we can. Again, getting up there without having to floor it from halfway down the driveway, make that turn and get up to the second house.
Is the Janda house the one that's due east of the upper house?
It's, I believe it's right over in
There
here.
doesn't seem to be a house there in the aerial
It's
photograph.
further, is it?
Isn't that the lot they created
That's the
down
lot,
there?
but it doesn't
There's
show
a
the
lot
house.
here,
They
there's,
created a lot, and that field right there is a permitted lot.
okay, but no residents on it currently?
No, their residence is way up back here.
Okay.
Oh, so that's still an empty lot. It's not improved.
I have to get
I don't
it
think so.
addressed
I
though.
think,
Fairly
I
recent
think that's
photo.
their, I think that's their house
Something
right
Richmond
there.
there.
Yeah,
Which is fairly far back from.
yeah.
We'll skip.
All right, well, good luck with the water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I can attest they've been working on it for about 2 months, that's for sure.
yeah.
Good.
Okay,
Looks good.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now you got me going, don't very good.
So we have a couple more extensions, or what?
Yeah, there's, no.
Well, let's do the sign extension.
All right, you want to do that one first?
Yep.
Okay.
Extension request for, was it EFG?
Yeah, EFG.
Sign
And-
extension?
And
I think those
basic,
expired.
It-
Signs expired?
an approval for a sign either by zoning administrator or DRB expires after 1 year.
Oh.
And tomorrow will be 1 year.
Oh.
So, it was brought to our attention, they've been, well, I think I'm supposed to mention here per section 8.5, it must be stated that the proposed sign and, the proposed sign and the conditions are essentially unchanged from the time of the original approval. It's an interesting construction where they're trying to maintain some of the building, it took a bit longer. some issues with the town, took a little
What's
longer.
the negative of an extension?
There isn't any. It's an extra, they get an extra year to put it in. It's a one-year
Yeah.
extension.
I'll make a motion to grant a 1-year extension for EFG's sign.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is RB and RH Goodrich LLC, third extension request for sketch plan approval.
I'm gonna, a couple of things. I did receive an email from Mr. Picola. I'm not going to state the entire email, but I'm just gonna mention a couple of things, because he wants the DRB to know that he couldn't make it here tonight, but he still thinks it's something that's still important to him. And he wanted to state that he believes it was the DRB's intention to allow him to continue with the permit process while working out an acceptable outcome with the select board in regards to the road repair. And simply put, they were not able to come to an agreement. I'd also like to remind the board, in granting the last extension, which was on March 7th, 2017, that the applicant was told that this would be their last extension. So there really hasn't been any progress on it.
So we granted a sketch plan approval with a number of conditions, right? What's actually been the holdup? Only this issue with the town and the
Well,
road ownership, maintenance,
It's really kind of
improvements?
been their decision to hold back on it, because they could have hypothetically come in here with a plan. Recommendations were made to them as far as alternatives. They could have come in with a smaller subdivision to get themselves started on the part of Observatory Road that is already maintained
Mhm.
as a class 3 with the town, but they have chosen at this point not to proceed with it until they've gotten a full basically, they want the town to basically build a road and maintain it, and nothing's changed.
So is this,
Have they moved forward at all with negotiations with the town?
It's been stalemated.
is this in
For
court?
how long?
Is this in court, or is it just been in?
They probably will go to court at some point, or at least they've been talking about going to court. I'll just say our recommendation is that you deny the extension.
Is that, anything have to change in the next 6 months? That's really,
That's a good question.
we don't have any,
So if it's denied, he can come back and reapply from.
Yeah, from the
Yeah.
start.
He could reapply. It's just, sketch plan approvals run for 6-month intervals. And you can approve additional 6 months or less in terms of intervals if you'd like, but you also don't have to. And
I mean, it's kind of again, what's it hurt to extend it, but why do you keep extending? I mean, you gotta have some guideline to keep hashing over the same thing over and over too.
Well.
You gotta force someone to take a step, I guess.
so there's a ton of engineering work that needs to be done in order to have a preliminary plat, right? And
it's basically, we haven't seen any of that work completed. The only contact that we have had regarding regarding this is the dispute as to the road itself.
So it's not really about the water, it's about the road.
There's no issue.
it's
I mean,
a-
granted, they have to go get their wastewater permit, which I don't believe they have at this point. But none of that's been presented to us. Nothing more has been presented to us since sketch plan. It's just been this dispute about the road, and testing that was done by an independent lab said that the you know, actually, leave that to all the courts.
By extending it, does it cause anybody, meaning any board, any more work? Any more money to the town?
No.
Except we said we weren't gonna extend it.
Right, well, I'm just asking the question, because I'm trying to.
I think my perspective is that we stated something, there was a
Yeah.
conversation, there's no, this is a circumstance that is somewhat in their control.
Yeah, it's very.
It's
within
not an
control.
extenuating circumstance
Like the
that
water.
that has
Right.
been a surprise to them. And so therefore, I'm inclined to
Deny.
deny.
Yeah.
I second that motion.
Was that a motion?
I guess I move to deny the extension request.
And Ralph seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. News and announcements?
I'll just mention that for the next meeting, we've got set up a one sketch plan application on Windswept Lane, and two applications, the rec field and town garage, that are town applications. And there's a lot of information that's going to be coming in, especially with the town garage.
Those both gonna be in the same meeting?
Yes. And there's a lot of
Is that
push.
site plan for the town garage? That's site plan, right?
It's gonna be just site plan for town
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah.
Very interesting plan.
Okay.
So, I love our devices, but so yesterday when I was like reviewing the notes, that I couldn't open that one. Did anybody, you had that same problem,
Yeah, I
right?
couldn't open up one of the site plans yesterday.
Oh.
It was the overall plat,
For which
For
one?
East-
For Eastman?
Yeah.
Eastman?
so, anyway.
Send me an email and,
Okay.
We waited to review it until last night, so.
I know.
should have sent me an email last night. Happy to have, I would have looked at it first thing in the morning and
Okay.
tried to figure out.
Just because I don't know how many,
You
that
didn't
I'm
get your
just,
hard copies of?
well, I mean, the whole point was so that we didn't have to have both. I mean, I can't
I know,
imagine
but
these
if
are
you
gonna.
can't find it, you should go to your hard
I
copy.
knew I had it, so I knew it would be okay, but I'm just saying in the
Yes,
future,
we are going to phase those out, yes.
we are phasing these out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, when are you gonna do that?
That's still in discussion.
Table that for when Greg's here.
He likes his hard copies.
Phase mine out, I'll just-
You can phase mine out, save $2 a week.
So I must have told you not to send it to me.
I think,
I think I
Maybe it was
did,
a no,
yeah.
yeah.
What did I do? What did I do?
Yeah, you're getting
These
back
are-
Move to
just
adjourn.
when you were
Yeah.
starting to
Okay.
get this, I was bowing out, so.
Oh, okay.
I gotta touch base.
So you had to do it all
When's our
tonight?
next meeting?
Right?
They moved.
2 weeks from now.
actually, just some
Five,
basic minutes to
14,
get us to the 5-day deadline, and then
Yeah.
Donna's gonna watch the,
Well, we don't have
See ya,
to
thanks for
close.
coming.
No problem.
Are we
Yeah.
done?
Are we adjourned?
Yeah, we're on.
All right.
Thank you. I think we got a lot into it.
Can I make a point of interest when we make a motion and there, I don't hear is there any further discussion before you make a vote. And I think that always should be said.